AZ-104 is where most Azure learners struggle because Microsoft tests real administration skills, not theory. In this video, you'll solve 10 real AZ-104 exam-style questions covering networking, storage, virtual machines, identity, and monitoring. Let's see if you're ready for the Azure Administrator exam. Question 11. You have an Azure subscription that contains a policy-based virtual network gateway named GW1 and a virtual network named VNet1. You need to ensure that you can configure a point-to-site connection from an on-premises computer to VNet1. Which two actions should you perform? Options: A. Delete GW1. B. Add a service endpoint to VNet1. C. Reset GW1. D. Create a route-based virtual network gateway. E. Add a connection to GW1. F. Add a public IP address space to VNet1. This question is asking which changes are needed so VNet1 can support a point-to-site VPN. It's testing if you know that P2S requires a route-based gateway, not a policy-based one. Correct answer: A. Delete GW1. D. Create a route-based virtual network gateway. Point-to-site, P2S, VPNs require a route-based VPN gateway. Since GW1 is policy-based, it cannot be converted directly. You must delete GW1 and then create a new route-based gateway for VNet1, after which you can configure P2S connections from on-premises computers. Why the other options are wrong? Option B. Service endpoints are for connecting VNets to pass services, not for enabling P2S VPN. Option C. Resetting GW1 doesn't change its type. It remains policy-based. Option E. You can't correctly add a P2S connection to a policy-based gateway. Option F. Changing the address space is unrelated to enabling P2S. Quick memory tip: P2S VPN only works with a route-based gateway. Question 12. You have an Azure DNS zone named preparationlabs.com. You need to delegate a subdomain named research.preparationlabs.com to a different DNS server in Azure. What should you do? Options: A. Create an NS record named research in the preparationlabs.com zone. B. Create a PTR record named research in the preparationlabs.com zone. C. Modify the SOA record of preparationlabs.com. D. Create an A record named .research in the preparationlabs.com zone. This question is about delegating a subdomain to another DNS server, which always involves NS records at the parent zone. Correct answer: A. Create an NS record named research in the preparationlabs.com zone. To delegate research.preparationlabs.com, you create an NS record named research in the parent zone, preparationlabs.com, that points to the DNS servers responsible for the subdomain. This tells clients to query those servers for any names under research.preparationlabs.com. Why the other options are wrong? Option B. PTR is for reverse DNS lookups, not delegation. Option C. SOA defines information about the zone, not subdomain delegation. Option D. An A record maps a name to an IP. It does not delegate DNS authority. Quick memory tip: subdomain delegation was NS record in the parent zone. Question 13. You have an Azure subscription named Subscription 1 that contains a virtual machine named VM1. You create an Azure Key Vault named Key Vault 1. You need to use Key Vault 1 to enable Azure disk encryption on VM1. The solution must support backing up VM1 by using Azure Backup. Which Key Vault settings should you configure? Options: A. Access policies. B. Secrets. C. Keys. D. Locks. This question is about which Key Vault setting must be configured so that Azure Disk Encryption and Azure Backup can use the keys/secrets stored in Key Vault 1. Correct answer: A. Access policies. For Azure Disk Encryption and Azure Backup to work with Key Vault 1, the Azure platform needs permission to access the encryption keys or secrets. You configure access policies, or RBAC, to allow disk encryption and backup services to read or use those values. Why the other options are wrong? Option B, C. Having secrets keys stored is not enough by itself. Access must be granted via policies. Option D. Locks only prevent deletion changes to the vault. They don't grant access for encryption or backup. Quick memory tip: Key Vault for disk encryption backup. Configure the access policies. Question 14. You have an Azure subscription that contains a virtual network named VNet1. VNet1 contains 4 subnets named Gateway, Perimeter, NVA, and Production. The NVA subnet contains two network virtual appliances, NVAs, that will perform network traffic inspection between the perimeter subnet and the production subnet. You need to implement an Azure load balancer for the NVAs. The solution must meet the following requirements. The NVAs must run in an active-active configuration that uses automatic failover. The NVA must load balance traffic to two services on the production subnet. The services have different IP addresses. Which three actions should you perform? Options: A. Deploy a basic load balancer. B. Deploy a standard load balancer. C. Add two load balancing rules that have HA ports and floating IP enabled. D. Add two load balancing rules that have HA ports enabled and floating IP disabled. E. Add a front-end IP configuration, a back-end pool, and a health probe. F. Add a front-end IP configuration, two back-end pools, and a health probe. This question is asking how to design a load balancer for active-active NVAs using HA ports and sending traffic to two different services, two IPs, in the production subnet. Correct answer: B. Deploy a standard load balancer. C. Add two load balancing rules that have HA ports and floating IP enabled. F. Add a front-end IP configuration, two back-end pools, and a health probe. A standard load balancer supports HA ports, multiple front-ends, and advanced scenarios required for NVAs. Enabling HA ports and floating IP allows the load balancer to handle all ports and support seamless failover in an active-active NVA setup. Using a front-end IP, two back-end pools for the two different services/IPs, and a health probe ensures traffic is load balanced correctly and automatically fails over if one NVA is unhealthy. Why the other options are wrong? Option A. Basic load balancer does not support HA ports or all the necessary features. Option D. Disabling floating IP prevents smooth active-active failover behavior. Option E. Only one back-end pool cannot handle two separate services with different IP addresses. Quick memory tip: active-active NVAs, standard LB plus HA ports plus floating IP plus health probe plus correct back-end pools. Question 15. Your on-premise network consists of two servers named Server 1 and Server 2, both running Windows Server 2019 Data Center. On Server 1, a file exists named file1.txt. On Server 2, a file exists also named file1.txt, but its contents are different. You set up a file sync service in Azure to sync the folders that contain both versions of file1.txt to a cloud endpoint. First, you set up Server 1 as a server endpoint. Then, a few hours later, Server 2. What will happen to file1.txt? Options: A. File1.txt on Server 1 will be moved to another folder. B. File1.txt from Server 1 is renamed file1server1.txt. C. File1.txt will be overwritten as soon as Server 2 server endpoint is added. D. File1.txt on Server 1 will be renamed file1old.txt. This question is about how Azure File Sync handles a file conflict when two servers have different files with the same name. Correct answer: B. File1.txt from Server 1 is renamed file1server1.txt. When Azure File Sync detects two different versions of a file with the same name, it treats it as a conflict and keeps both copies. To avoid data loss, it renames one version using a pattern that includes the server name. For example, file1server1.txt, so both versions stay accessible. Why the other options are wrong? Option A. Files are not moved into another folder. They are renamed. Option C. Azure File Sync does not silently overwrite one version when there is a conflict. Option D. The rename pattern uses the server name, not -old. Quick memory tip: file conflict with File Sync, Azure keeps both by renaming one with the server name. Question 16. You have two Azure virtual networks named VNet1 and VNet2. VNet1 contains an Azure virtual machine named VM1. VNet2 contains an Azure virtual machine named VM2. VM1 hosts a front-end application that connects to VM2 to retrieve data. Users report that the front-end application is slower than usual. You need to view the average round-trip time, RTT, of the packets from VM1 to VM2. Which Azure Network Watcher feature should you use? Options: A. IP Flow Verify. B. Connection Troubleshoot. C. Connection Monitor. D. NSG Flow Logs. This question wants you to pick the feature that gives ongoing RTT latency measurements over time, not just a quick one-time test. Correct answer: C. Connection Monitor. Connection Monitor continuously tracks connectivity between endpoints like VM1 and VM2 and reports RTT, reachability, and latency trends. This lets you see whether network latency has increased and how it changes over time, which is what you need to troubleshoot the slowdown. Why the other options are wrong. Option A. IP flow verify checks allow deny by NSG, not latency. Option B. Connection troubleshoot gives a single point-in-time result, not long-term average RTT. Option D. NSG flow logs show flows, who talked to whom, not detailed latency metrics. Quick memory tip. Need latency over time between VMs? Use Connection Monitor. Question 17. You deploy an Azure virtual machine named VM1 that is configured to analyze network traffic. You need to ensure that all network traffic is routed through VM1. What should you configure? Options. A. A system route. B. A network security group, NSG. C. A user-defined route. This question is testing how to force traffic through a specific VM NVA by adjusting routing, not by just denying traffic. Correct answer C. A user-defined route. A user-defined route UDR lets you override the default system routing and specify a custom next hop, like VM1, for particular traffic. By associating a route table containing that UDR with the subnet, all relevant traffic will be sent through VM1 for analysis. Why the other options are wrong. Option A. System routes are created by Azure and cannot be defined by you to force traffic through VM1. Option B. NSGs control which traffic is allowed or denied, but they do not change the path that traffic takes. Quick memory tip. To send traffic via a specific VM, configure a user-defined route with that VM as next hop. Question 18. You plan to deploy 5 virtual machines to a virtual network subnet. Each virtual machine will have a public IP address and a private IP address. Each virtual machine requires the same inbound and outbound security rules. What is the minimum number of network interfaces and network security groups that you require? Options. A. Network interfaces, 5. B. Network interfaces, 10. C. Network interfaces, 15. D. Network security groups, 1. E. Network security groups, 5F. Network security groups, 10. This question is asking you to reason about the minimum required NICs per VM and how you can reuse one NSG when all VMs share the same rules. Correct answer, A. Network interfaces, 5. D. Network security groups, 1. Each VM requires at least one NIC, and a single NIC can support both a private and a public IP, so 5 VMs mean 5 NICs. Since all 5 VMs need the same security rules, you can define those rules once in a single NSG and apply it to the subnet or all NICs, so one NSG is enough. Why the other options are wrong. More NICs, 10 or 15, are unnecessary. You do not need multiple NICs just to have public and private IPs. Multiple NSGs, 5 or 10, would duplicate the same rules and increase management overhead for no benefit. Quick memory tip. 1 VM, 1 NIC. Many VMs, 1 shared NSG if rules are the same. Question 19. You have an Azure subscription. You need to transfer 34 TB of data from an on-premise Windows Server 2016 server to your Azure Storage account. You need to ensure that the data transfer has zero impact on the network, preserves your existing drives, and is the fastest and most secure method. What should be your first step? Options. A. Start an import job via the Azure portal. B. Order an Azure data box via the Azure portal. C. Open a ticket with Microsoft support. D. Prepare your hard drives using the WayImport Export tool. This question is about choosing the right offline bulk data transfer method for large data, tens of TB, with no network impact. Correct answer, B. Order an Azure data box via the Azure portal. Azure Data Box is a secure, Microsoft-provided appliance designed to move large data volumes, TBs, to Azure without using your WAN bandwidth. You order it, copy data locally, ship it back, and Azure ingests the data into your storage account, making it fast and network-friendly. Why the other options are wrong. Option AD, classical import-export with your own disks, is more manual and less ideal for 34 TB when a data box is available. Option C, you don't need to open a support ticket for this scenario. The service can be ordered directly. Quick memory tip. Very large data plus no WAN impact, Azure Data Box. Question 20. You need to deploy two Azure virtual machines named VM1 and VM2 based on Windows Server 2016. The deployment must meet the following requirements. Provide a service level agreement, SLA, of 99.95% availability. Use managed disks. You propose a solution to create a traffic manager for the requirement. Would the solution meet the goal? Options: A, yes. B, no. This question is asking what actually gives you the 99.95% VM SLA. Is it just using Traffic Manager or something else in the VM deployment? Correct answer, B, no. The 99.95% availability SLA for VMs is achieved by running two or more VMs in either an availability set with managed disks or across availability zones, not by simply using Traffic Manager. Traffic Manager is a DNS-based traffic routing service and does not itself guarantee the VM compute SLA. Why the other options are wrong? Option A assumes that Traffic Manager alone provides the high VM availability SLA, which is incorrect. It must be combined with proper VM deployment patterns. Quick memory tip: VM SLA 99.95%, availability set, zone plus managed disks, not Traffic Manager alone.